Well, hi, this is Peter Combs from BidAmount.com and P.L. Combs Asian Art here in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and today is August 11th, 2017. It's Friday, and as always, we'll take a look at last week's newsletter results, see what the auctions were from last week's little catalog we put together. Some interesting things. But before I get started, I wanted to bring to your attention. I'll get over to it here. If you're on our website, on the BidAmount website, and you look up here, there's a thing here called the site navigation page. And if you click it, it'll bring you over here. And if you scroll to the very, very bottom of the page, scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a link. And I don't know how many of you explore this page, but there's some great stuff on here. And this is for the IEAS James Cahill lecture. And he's since passed away, but he was the University of Berkeley. He was basically the entire Asian department of the University of Berkeley. Let's put it that way. He was one of the great scholars in the world of Chinese paintings. He was a great lecturer. He spoke everywhere. And before he died, during the 2000s, he died in 2014. He did a series of articles here called Pure and Remote View. And if you click the button over on the navigator page, it'll bring you over here. And this is on the Institute of East Asian Studies website. And it's a lecture series that he did. Originally, it was put out on videos. It's 24 parts. Each lecture is an hour and a half long, with lots of illustrations. And he's a great lecturer. And if you're interested in learning about the history of Chinese paintings, the Six Dynasties period, Han, Tang, going right through, it is well worth listening to several times, okay? You are not going to get it all the first time through, believe me. We play this thing in the background around the office sometimes just for company. I love the guy's voice. He's absolutely charming and funny, and he was a great man. He wrote many books, and there's a lot out there on James Cahill if you're not familiar with him. So be sure to, if you're interested in Chinese paintings or you just want to see interesting documentaries, watch him. He's great. All right, now over to last week's auctions results from eBay. Speaking of paintings, it was this. This was a painting that was put up by a dealer we keep a track of, who's down in Warwick, Rhode Island. And this is a wonderful little interior scene of a Chinese house. Very typical Chinese house with the big doors in the background, nicely carved. A simple home with some furniture, some script on the upper right there. And small table, sparsely decorated with two young men playing instruments. Rather charming little painting. And it went very reasonably, $258. That would make a wonderful thing in a frame. Beautifully done. It's not in perfect condition. It's got some peeling to it. But this is a good old painting. It's a nice old painting, very legitimate. And I like Chinese paintings a great deal. And I liked that. All right, and then there was this nice, probably early 19th century Peking enamel dish. I like the leaf device in the center that frames it, with the scholar resting and taking a little nap with his assistant beside him. They have some scrolls out. There's a stack of books here you'll notice behind them, and they've been out on a beautiful day reading poetry and so forth. And this was a nice plate, and it did okay, but it was a terrific buy, I think, for whoever bought it. $115 for a nice early piece of Beijing enamel, or Peking enamel as they used to call it. There it is. Nice thing. So bravo whoever spotted that and bought it. All right. And I also mentioned last week one of the more unappreciated areas of Chinese art. For some reason, it's sort of like the stepchild art is Chinese pewter. There's a number of them. This is one of them. Chinese pewter doesn't get a lot of love, and I don't know why. I think some of it is absolutely charming and elegant and interesting. And here's this is a tea box, and beautifully done. And if you slip the cover off, this is what you see on the inside. And you see these canisters, and they would put tea in them or spices and so forth. And I'm going to bet you that if you've been collecting Chinese antiques for any length of time, you've seen these. You see these canisters around. Well, this is where and you wonder why they're shaped that way. Well, that's where they come from, okay? And this was a really nice piece of pewter, much better than the typical Swato commercially knocked out stuff. And it did very well. It brought $1,223. But for what it is, I don't think it was too much. And it could have even been a late 18th or maybe early 19th century one. But very nice quality. They didn't use a lot of pewter long before that. All right, and we had this vase in here. This was a rather nice Kangxi vase, sort of done in the shaped in the transitional style, though, which I liked. It's sort of a transitional feel to it, but rather thinly potted. Nice looking foot on it. Nice clean white foot, neat, typical recessed bottom. There's another side of it. It had a few rim frits around the top, as I remember. But it was a nice little vase, very nice little vase. And it brought $805. Not bad. Perfectly good buy. And the seller of that little vase was a guy named Blind Squirrel. We've never seen him before, but we'll keep an eye on him. And then there was this very nice Chen period Famille rose plate. I liked this a lot. I thought the enamels on it were nice and strong, and sort of interesting how they put crabs and crayfish in the cartouches around the border, and framing a scene with two women, two Chinese beauties crossing over with a young man with some books, and they're following along behind him. He has a banner hanging off of a pole in his hand. Beautifully done. Nice plate. And it did pretty well. It brought $778. But that's a lot of art for $778 in the Chen period. All right. And we also had several bird feeders on there. We have people out there that collect bird feeders. And there's some huge bird feeder collections in the world. I saw one once. They must have had 1,000 of them. And here's one. This is a very sort of a typical late 19th century one. This is what the bottom of them looks like, and this is what the top of them look like, and they would attach onto the bamboo slats of Chinese bird cages to put the food in. And it did pretty well. It brought $206. And the same seller, Roof Hayes, had this one. It was a blue one. It was a bit better, I think. It had lotus blossoms, and it was shaped with, if you took the handle off, you could picture it with a lid, and it would be like a little paste box. The shape is extremely similar. There's the bottom of it, and here's the notice the bottom of this is glazed. It's a little bit finer example, and there are the loops for attaching onto the cage, and you put a pin through that hole there to hold it in place. And it did a little better. It brought $280. All right, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the one buyer bought both of them, because they don't turn up a lot often. All right, and then we had this really nice pair of Chinese export Clobber Wares. These were pieces that were done, made originally in China around 1770, and they called them Clobber Wares. It's a Dutch expression. They were basically repainted, or the decoration was added onto. Decoration was augmented once it arrived in Holland, and they did it with these very nice red flowers framing the underglazed blue and gilt scenes. And a nice little pair of tea caddies, very popular among collectors in the Netherlands and England. And it brought $334, which is a perfectly good price for those. And they were in pretty good condition. There was a little bit of restoration to the lids, as I recall, but still perfectly good price. And there was this Chinese painting. This is sort of a provincial but nicely framed painting of birds, late 19th century, early 20th century, with some calligraphy. And but I like these kinds of frames. They were very popular back in the 50s and 60s, probably when it was done. And it went for $433. And this was also from that same seller that had the first painting down in Rhode Island. They get good things. All right. And on to card cases. It's interesting. Chinese card cases are like everything else in Chinese art, come in variety of qualities and so forth. And this is a fairly commercial grade of card case made during the 19th century. It's a little busy, not a lot of detail, not too deeply carved, but a perfectly good card case. I'm not knocking the card case. So if the seller that sold this is watching, I'm not knocking your card case. It's a good one. It's a type that turned up. They were sold in department stores in the late 19th and early 20th century. Perfectly good, and it brought a good price. It brought $598 US. I like that. That's perfectly fine. But if you're really into card cases, the next one is a much better card case. This one. This is a great card case. Much heavier carving, more deeply carved, lots of good detail. We'll blow it up. The figures, the expressions on their faces, everything is polished and finished a bit more deeply. here they've taken the upper and lower sections and stacked them so you can see what the top of the cases look like. Very good quality all the way around. It had a signature plaque on it on the piece here, so the owner could put his initials on it, and so forth. Here's another side. Beautiful case and good color, nice color. All right, you never want to clean these. Maybe just a little lemon oil once in a while. It went for $1,500. All right, good price for that. But that's a heck of a nice card case. All right, and then jades. There was this one piece of jade we put up. This was actually listed by someone who subscribes. He sells things occasionally, and this was a rather nice little jade pendant that somebody had given him to sell for them. And he let me know they were putting it up. I liked that. I thought it was pretty nice. Probably late 19th century. Good quality, nice work all the way around, and good color. There's a few inclusions up here in the upper right, but the color of the stone looked pretty good overall, and it did just fine. It brought $860, which seems to be the price range for pendants these days from the 19th century. There's a lot of fakes, though, on the market, so be careful out there. There's fakes of everything. And then there was this Famille tile with this very nice, big, very prominent pine tree in the middle, with herons coming down, or storks coming down, or herons, and egrets, and then these spotted deer, which appear in so much of Chinese art. You see them on big jars and vases, and they're very auspicious. And here's a pair of them. A nice plaque, and it brought $1,714. Okay. And then there was this bronze. This was the bronze I had mentioned that I liked quite a bit. I thought it was a really nice little bronze. It did have a break midsection here. You can see it. It had some damage to it, but very nice quality, very well rendered, all the way around with good color. And apparently other people liked it too. It brought $1,100 because there are other types of bronzes of figures of boys that you see around, and they bring $400 to $600. But this was a better one. This was a much better one. Without the damage, it probably would have brought it $2,000 or $3,000, I think. All right. And this was one of the bigger, higher price things of the week, and we talked about these a little bit last week because they're a very nice pair of Republican period sort of eggshell Famille Rose vases in their original cases. Back when these were made, they often did very lovely cases to put them in. Here they are. You can see how they cut it out. They lined it with silk. Here's the top and bottom view. But a nice pair of vases. They even had the original little silk stands, which were very popular. You see them a lot on Chinese ivories that were carved in the 1920s. They often come with those silk-wrapped stands. And this pair of vases did very well. It brought $10,000 from a seller in Norcross, Georgia. All right. And moving along over here, there's the Famille Rose Export Teapot. Nice one, 1770s. Good strong colors in this. I like this, that nice bright lemon yellow, that nice bright yellow that sometimes isn't so bright. And it even continued under the balustrade, and a nice Famille Rose enamels, and it was in good condition. Here's the top to it. Very attractive teapot. And it brought $704. So, but a nice example. And then for those of you that know about silver, you'll know what this is. This is a berry spoon, and it's a type of spoon that became extremely popular in the late 19th century in the United States and in England and Europe, and it was for serving preserves and so forth. And apparently they got the Chinese silversmiths to start making them as well. And characteristically, they had gilt washes over the bowls. And but this was a beautiful quality spoon. This is a wonderful, wonderful high-quality spoon. With great casting on it, and it was signed on the back. But nice little berry. There's a better picture of it. Beautiful gloss to it. The gilding still looked like it was in excellent condition, and I think this went very reasonably. This was a nice example. It only went for $207. All right, and this is sort of one of those things that appeals to the American market and the Chinese market. All right, and this was one of the nicer plates, young Chen plate with no border on it, which I liked a lot. And it's a scene of two fishermen here, and they've got some koi up or carp or something they're catching, and they're being looked down upon by some ladies in the upper left. And I like the way the cavetto sort of forms the edge of the pond, and then you have the marsh grass and flowers and so forth coming in around a rocky outcropping here. and some cranes ascending up here. Nice example. Very typical back, had a little problem there, and it might have had a little repair right there. It's hard to tell. It might be the light. But anyway, that's the back of it. Nicely done. Neat foot on it. And this brought $1,008. $1,008. Interesting price. I wonder how they got that. Anyway, it was a good plate. And then there was this rather interesting piece of silk. What was interesting about it was that they added these strips onto it. I don't think this is how it started out in life, but I like these big rue heads on the end, these big silk woven rue heads with nice bright colors, and then these two hanging strips with tassels on them and beads, and very reasonable. It was a good thing for a sort of a young collector of silk, new collector. $343. A lot of bang for the buck there. And there's a number of different types of stitching techniques that were used there, so you could learn something. And here's a rather nice, probably Kangxi period plate, or salver, and but really well painted, really well painted, very tight painting. I'd be inclined to think it was young Chen period, but who knows? At any rate, beautifully done, nice and neat in the center. I like the outer border on it. And it did just fine. It brought $332. Seller Gordon Gecko had that. All right. And then there's this. This is that garniture set that closes over the weekend. This hasn't ended yet. But if you remember last week's newsletter, we here it is. In the newsletter, this garniture set was on Roadshow at one point. And if you come over to the newsletter and you scroll down, you'll see there's a link to the Roadshow video with Lark Mason on it. There it is. The lady that owned these, I don't know if she still owns them or what the story is, but brought them to Roadshow, and Lark got pretty excited about them. He thought they were lovely, sort of a Dao altar set, Buddhist altar set. Had some condition issues here and there on the feet, but I think in the video he gave it a $15,000 to $25,000 estimate, and I think he's about right. They close in a few days. They're up to $4,111 currently, but very nice set. And we'll see how they do. They close on Saturday. They close tomorrow. So if you're interested in buying them, give them a bid tonight before you forget. All right. And these are closing over the weekend as well, also on Saturday. It's not these. It's a vase. I hate it when they do these split scenes because it makes you think there's a pair. It's not a pair. It's one vase. There it is, so you're not get confused. But done very much in the Kangxi style. I don't believe this to be a Kangxi vase, but it's getting an awful lot of attention, and I'm not quite sure what it's going to bring. But here's the bottom of it. Pretty typical, or sort of a good 19th century foot on it. Well done. All right, there it is, and it's up to $4,546. So we see how that does. Now, on to a couple of other things. I was looking at this is my live auctioneers page. I do keep stuff on there. And I noticed that there's a couple of auctions coming up that you might want to make darn sure you avoid. And we'll put these on the website in the coming week. I meant to do it this week. I ran out of time because some things came up. But at any rate, this is an auction that's being done by Converse Auctions in somewhere in Pennsylvania, in Malvern, Pennsylvania, on August 25th. Avoid the sale, as far as I'm concerned. The pieces all look like reproductions. You know, he's calling things Ming this and Chin Lung that, and forget it. It's not, okay. And the other auction, and we'll pull together some images and we'll put up some comps of what the real ones look like and share them with you as soon as we get them some time next week. I've got a couple of appointments to get on, but at any rate, here we are. And this is another sale you want to avoid. This is Wensley's in Doral, Florida, and a lot of you are going to see some familiar faces in here that are very similar to things we've seen in auctions just in the last few weeks. It's amazing. You'd think that Ming pieces are falling out of the woodwork all over the country. And this is a Ming porcelain Dao flask. It's not. It's brand new. Ming porcelain blue and white. No, it's not. It's not Ming. Okay, these are all copies. All right, so two places to take off your online bidding list if you do that. One is Wensley's, and the other one is Converse. Okay, and we'll talk about them a bit next week. We'll put up a post. All right. And thanks for visiting. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to us here and come to BidAmount.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter and leave a comment. And have a great weekend, all righty? And thanks so much for taking the time. This is a long video today. I apologize. All righty. Bye-bye.